Cool, Jen. Thanks so much for jumping on and joining me. We've obviously been having a bit of a chat about your progress over the last few months, and certainly looking back even 12 months ago about how far you've come with your brand. And it's been amazing for you to, we'll take the 27K for last month, but
Yeah.
been significant month on month and obviously year on year growth as well. So it's been awesome to see you progress. Obviously through the program as well over the last 2-3 months, which has been amazing. Before we jump into that, I'd love to kind of hear just obviously a bit about you and your brand and how long you've been going, and we can jump into some things, after that about what helped you progress.
Yeah, so I started making earrings probably 2.5 years ago, and just was doing it on the side, basically to make my own and a few for friends and bits and pieces, and that was it. And then I sort of probably 18 months ago decided that I was either going to get another job or make this a real thing.
Mm.
So I decided to throw money into advertising and courses and try and, make it a real thing. And I gave myself, I think at the start I said 30 days that I would put money into it, see what happened. And I've been smashed with work ever since, pretty
That's a
much.
tight time frame, but that's impressive.
Yeah. So, yeah, and it kind of has just grown from there.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. And so what I mean, you've been in business, as you said, a few years. Where were things at when you were doing things prior to jumping the program and doing things, on your own more or less? Where were things
Yeah,
sitting?
so I was basically sitting at a similar amount, pretty much consistently for sort of 4 to 6 months before I started.
Mm,
And I was just at a point where I didn't know where to go from there. I knew I needed to do something else, but I didn't know what.
mm,
Or things like emails. I knew if I sent more emails, I would make more money. But it was a time factor, but also not knowing when to send, what to send, what to change with the ads and all that sort of stuff as well. So I was just at a
mm.
point where it was either I kept going consistently, which was sort of okay, but not amazing.
Yeah, yeah, you knew there was something else there. You'd obviously had, early validation and then progress, as you say, to a certain point in terms of consistent revenues, but kind of just bubbling at that cap, I guess you could say, without knowing what that next, sort of step is. And and
Yeah.
and we had a very similar thing with our business, and I see it quite a lot, is you just there needs to be some form of change to reach that next level. And you'll find that now getting closer to that 30K a month, it's like, okay, something else needs to go. It may not
Yeah.
be marketing wise for you necessarily. It'll obviously be scaling ads and things like that. But as we were speaking about before, it's about building team, for example, and having some help with the production to ensure that you can free yourself up to continue to build the business. But challenges all along the way. And if you're doing it for the first time, it can feel like no one's ever been through it before, or like, no one understands exactly what I'm kind of going through. And so that's why it's
And you just don't have
again,
enough hands or enough
yeah,
hours.
yeah. You're in the whirlwind, right? And overwhelm and working all hours of the night and weekends and things. And so it's been awesome to see you just take things in your stride. And I'm sure it hasn't been as easy as it's looked for you, but you've, from what I've observed, taken the instructions, basically implemented it with confidence, and you've got the output and you've seen a very steady level of growth, which has been amazing. And
Yeah.
so hopefully that just gives you, again, more confidence for the next step, and trusting processes and having that, guidance has obviously been really important as well to kind of, yeah, just even know you're on the right track, or tweaking one or two things here and there, because those one
Yeah.
percenters can make exponential difference in what we do. Should I send that extra email? Should I run those ads for a bit longer? Should I change this one or two things? There's a lot of people that do come into the program that are starting a lot of things new, not their business from new, but a lot of things from new. But there's also a large majority that come in sort of at your stage where it's like, yeah, there's a few new things we can do, but we can get a lot more bang for buck with what you're currently doing, just to tighten those screws a little bit.
Yeah.
So what
Even
what would
just
you
the return customer amount
mm,
has increased. I think it's like 25% or something, just by
that's
doing the emails and doing the retargeting. And yeah, it's made a
yeah,
massive difference.
and that's just basically profit. That's
Yeah.
that's so nice to hear. And so apart from those couple of things, like what have been the big levers for you? Mentioned emails, of course. What have kind of been the big levers for you to see the growth that you have over the last few months, if you can put your finger on it?
Look, I think the actual explanations of how to set up the ads and, you know, just the timings of email flows and stuff like that, that the admin side of things used to do my head in, because I would get so frustrated trying to work it out. And it's not my thing. So having it all set out with do this, do that, you know, this is the timings of those sort of things, it just made it easy to actually follow. But yeah, the email flows, like I had, you know, maybe one abandoned cart and one welcome sort of email, and that's made a massive difference as well. So having everything simply laid out has, you know, made the admin side of things easy.
That's awesome. That's really cool. And I mean, like the way that the program's kind of structured, like what have you found sort of most beneficial? Is it the course content, or what have you sort of found that you got the value out of the most? What do you think?
Look, the content definitely, but probably the group calls and, you know, being able to chat to other people doing the same thing, and have you guys look over the account and actually look at where we were, you know, where I was sort of going wrong or where things were getting stuck, is super handy as well.
That's awesome. That's cool. And I mean, kind of just looking back, like you mentioned you'd done a few programs or done some things before, some trainings and stuff. Did you have like reservations before jumping into the Ecom Blueprint? Do you recall?
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
The same as previously, because I'm handmade, I'm not just
Mm.
buying in stock and selling it. Like, it's whether it would work for my business. And whether, you know, the numbers that you guys are talking is practical for someone that's hand making earrings.
Mm.
It's
Mm.
like, it's a lot of earrings
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
get to those figures. So that
Absolutely.
was my biggest concern, was whether, you know, because there's so many, I've worked with like an actual marketing company previously
Mm.
with a previous job, and
Mm.
they sort of took over, did all the ads for you, but then if it doesn't work, you're sort of left with no idea how they did things or what they did,
Mm.
and it was never great.
Yeah. Yeah.
um Whereas knowing how to do it all yourself, and, you know, having people that you can ask questions and all that sort of stuff, just is completely different ball game.
Yeah. Yeah. And so what was it with the reservation? Because basically 100% of people who jump in definitely have reservations. What was it sort of for you that made you take the leap? Was it about that empowerment piece of sort of knowing the ins and the outs, and at least I'll come back with skills and that sort of thing? Or what was it, do you think?
It was a mixture. I think it's because I messaged you at maybe 10 o'clock at night and when, is this going to work for me? And you responded, which was a good start.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it was just because it wasn't just like an ads training or just
Mm.
you know, we're going to take over and do it for you. It was because I had spoken to another company like just prior to you,
Mm.
and did a call and did the whole thing, and it was basically just focused on one thing. And I'm like, I know that it wasn't just one thing that I needed to change or do that was extra. So I guess you basically included all the things that I knew I needed to do.
Yeah. That's
So
awesome. And that's really cool to hear that from you as well, because it's just something we had experienced. I mean, when I initially started teaching people just 4 or 5 years ago, it was just to do with the ads. I was actually managing their ads. And it was the realization of myself, especially when, I'm not sure if you knew about it, but when Apple changed their privacy in iOS 14, etc., that's when Facebook itself dropped off a cliff in terms of its results. And so I started advising about other things of the business just through karmic's experience. And I'm like, hang on, this is really important that there are other things other than ads, that we're talking about and teaching people and working for. So that's really cool to hear that, because that's just my sole belief that basically everything is intertwined. The touch points that we hit with our marketing, the holistic approach is so super important. You can't just have one thing. I mean, Facebook could shut us down tomorrow and there
yeah.
goes our traffic. We're just kind of leasing their platform and their data, right? So yeah, that's really, really cool to hear that. I guess just one final thing. I mean, being on the other side, and as you mentioned, you've been through programs and stuff before, but being on the other side and where you are kind of now, like what would you sort of say to people that are stuck and stagnated and just kind of struggling, feeling a bit lost, overwhelmed? We all kind of go through that. Like what's helped you to keep progressing and keep moving forwards, I guess?
Probably having the clarity of what to do next and what
Mm.
to plan and how to sort of get past that constant sort of amount and do the next thing, and what to, what I need to do next, I guess, has made it not easy, but easier to sort of push through, because that same amount for 6 months or so was fine, but it was just, I just didn't know how to go above that, I guess. So yeah, I mean, it's been a massive help and a massive change, sort of having people to ask, what should I be doing?
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. As I said, I'm so glad to of you and so proud of the work that you've done so far. And I'm so excited because I know it's just the beginning, and we're just going to
Yeah,
free up some capacity things there, and then we can
yeah,
keep
exactly.
scaling and keep growing. We can make this thing into exactly what you want it to. So again, massive congrats. Thank you obviously for sharing that. It's going to be super valuable for people, and yeah, onwards and upwards to the next big milestone.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks, Jen.